It's short king summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated. It's short king summer. Hello, everyone, and welcome in to the show today. Davis Maddock joined by Greg Branos, Mr. CoachSpeak Index here on the show. Greg, I thought it was a great day to have you on because we are really tilted at NFL coaches. Coaches have been lying to us. I mean, truly, the impetus for the CoachSpeak Index, we are seeing it in real time because we got lied to our faces this week. So we need to get to the bottom of that. We have to look at some of the 49ers stuff and figure out what is going on there. Greg, how is your season treating you?
Not too bad. I usually wait until after Monday Night Football to look at advance rates and that kind of stuff. But Kenneth Walker, who was a big guy for me, doing very well. Jayden Daniels, another big guy for me, doing quite well. So hoping that his rib injury is not that bad. Seems to be all right. His mama says it's going to be fine. So Mama Speak Index, very reliable.
Well, let's actually do a little bit of Jayden Daniels talk. So if you didn't watch the game, if you're just checking box scores, basically what happened is it was kind of interesting. They started the game in this funny Mickey Mouse formation where they were playing two running backs. It was kind of like there's this playbook in NCAA 25, the UNLV playbook, that has these funky two back sets where like they're both aligned on the same side. And they clearly had it set up as like this opening, like we're going to go down, we're going to score, we're going to run like this triple option thing. Daniels rips off a 50-yard gain. Now, it wasn't clear to me if he got hurt on that play or the next play, because the next play, he kind of like, he goes off to the right and he kind of folds down. And then well, I can't remember. Did Brian Robinson score on that one? Yeah, the next play.
I think
Robinson scores.
They actually asked Dan Quinn about when he sustained that injury. And Quinn said, I know the injury occurred on that first drive. I don't know at which point it occurred. And said that they're doing some further tests today. He didn't have any updates last night after the game, but said that he's going to be giving an update today. And his press conference has not occurred yet.
I honestly, you know what I was thinking? This will show how old I am. I remembered a game where Tony Romo got a broken rib and a punctured lung against the 49ers. I mean, this would have been in like 2005 or something. This was a long time ago. But I do remember, and then Romo comes back in that game. I remember him coming out of the tunnel, and I don't even remember if they won or lost that game. They probably lost because it was the Cowboys. But I think had that game mattered at all, had the Panthers put up any fight, had Mariota been like brutal out there, I wonder if it's one of those things where we would have seen Daniels play in the second half with the jacket on, and then basically they just don't call any running plays for him or whatever. But it does immediately bring up something that people were legitimately concerned about, which is that Jayden Daniels just like loves to get tackled. You watch this dude's LSU film, and it's like Hayden Winks had that viral tweet of like, it's 1st and 10 in the first quarter against Alabama, and Jayden Daniels just runs upright into a linebacker for no reason for this situation. And that play, that long run, you look at like, what would Lamar Jackson have done on that play? He would have like spun around the defender and then went down to a knee. What Jayden Daniels does is he sees the final defender and he basically just like lets himself get wrapped up and then folded over. And it's kind of the Richardson thing where it's like, dude, part of your job is protecting yourself.
Yeah, he plays like he has Anthony Richardson's frame. It's so funny. He's like the most slender guy. He should not be seeking out contact, but he is getting a little bit better at the like rolling out where he could have the option to run, but he's throwing it now instead, which that was a really big thing that Dan Quinn was talking about earlier in the season and coming into the season of like, we need to scale back on this tendency a little bit. And it makes sense because Dan Quinn is this like really big, I want big explosive plays. And you get a lot of those on those like rollouts where defenses are kind of, oh, is he about to run, coming down a little bit, and then boom, hit him over the top.
Yeah. Just obviously very frustrating stuff. So one of the most annoying things that happened yesterday, to me, this is the type of shit that drives me the most crazy, which is that the Los Angeles Rams, Greg, they just lied to us. We got no reporting about this all week. We didn't hear a hint. Jordan Whittington was effectively benched, and he wasn't benched because they hate him now and they've decided that Tyler Johnson is better than him. He was benched because he's not healthy. And you messaged me last night and you said no one asked. Not a word mentioned about Jordan Whittington.
No one asked. And no one asked about him during the week leading up to the game. I don't know if they just assume like, okay, if he's either going to be active or inactive or whatever. Nobody asked about him, probably because he's not, a star in the NFL yet, right? Okay, sure. He played over 90% of snaps the last couple games, and he looked like kind of their wide receiver one right now. And but he's not like some established star. So if this was Puka Nacua or Cooper Kupp or something that plays 9 offensive snaps, I'm sure there'd be questions directly after the game. But McVay did have his press conference today. They haven't put it online yet, but Sarah Barshop, beat reporter for the Rams for ESPN, said, so McVay had the press conference today. Here's the quote. Said he hopes Jordan Whittington will have a little bit more of a workload against the Vikings. McVay said Whittington didn't get to practice a lot because of the limitations with his shoulder, which is why he only played 9 offensive snaps on Sunday. No one asked about him during the week. No one said, hey, how is the shoulder? And I did see a tweet on, I believe, Friday saying that, McVay expects Whittington to play. That didn't happen during the press conference. So maybe that was something that was asked before or after, but we didn't get questions from anyone this week about, hey, like, what can we expect from Jordan Whittington this week? And again, I think it's because he's not some established star in the NFL. He's a guy that started 2 games.
It's one of those things where obviously fantasy nerds take this stuff very seriously, but it also is one of those things where it implies that beat writers don't always understand the game at a high level, because you have fantasy writers out here who understand at a conceptual level. The Rams offense has 3 roles. So it's got the Demarcus Robinson run blocking sacrificial X role. It's got the Cooper Kupp, which is kind of like he doesn't always play in the slot, but I would call him the slot. What would you call it? Like a move wide receiver. He's not a flanker. The flanker would be Puka's role. And what happened in this game is Tyler Johnson gets the Whittington stuff, which was the Kupp stuff. Atwell gets the Puka stuff. And then, Demarcus Robinson is Demarcus Robinson. He is who he is. I mean, obviously, it is Short King Summer here on the show, so I didn't mind Tutu Atwell getting 9 snaps, but you could see pretty clearly the way the snaps delineated the 2 games before is they felt that Whittington was better at the Kupp stuff than Tyler Johnson. Tyler Johnson, I think, only played 10 snaps in their game before the bye.
They switched, basically. Tyler Johnson and Jordan Whittington switched this week.
But have people been asking McVay, and I don't even know the name of the Rams offensive coordinator. Have people been asking? Have they been saying like, oh, what is it about Whittington that you like more in that spot than Tyler Johnson? I assume nothing.
No, absolutely nothing.
Really annoying. I guess while we were on the Rams, we should talk about. So McVay did have a quote. Here's something he did say. We could put that in the CoachSpeak index. McVay says we want to do 2 drives for Kyren, 1 drive for Corum.
Did he say that though? I know there was the report of that, but this isn't something that's like public. This isn't a public and this is part of the reason why this is all the context and everything is so important to me with CoachSpeak Index, because we get these reports or quotes or something, or a certain quote will be attributed, and that's not actually what was even said in the press conference. It's weird, and this is also something that like one of the Rams beat reporters was kind of speculating on going into the season, was that it was going to be 2 drives for Kyren and 1 for Corum. I could see that being something that like they eventually want, but they have so much trust in Kyren Williams. It's not going to be. It's going to be a gradual thing if this happens. It's not going to be an immediate 2-1 or I think someone actually like clarified or something that he actually said 3-1.
Well, this is what Trent Green said on the broadcast. He said Sean McVay told him that the Rams want to give Kyren 2 series and Corum 1 series and work the running backs that way. Now, this is another of my peccadillos, Greg, is that these announcers on the national broadcast will always treat these things that coaches tell them like it's common knowledge, right? Like, oh yeah, we were doing we're doing our meetings on Friday. We sat down with Coach Reed, we sat down with Coach McVay, and he told us this. And then they say it in a really offhanded way on the broadcast. And then it's like, well, maybe it would have been nice if this could have been any reporting. I remember the Jordan Mason one really tilted me, where the broadcast for that 49ers Jets game, they were like, oh yeah, Mason's been getting ready for this. CMC's been, and it's just like, dude, if you're saying it, because the tacit admission there is if you're saying it to the national television broadcast, then it's not some state secret, right? That is information that you could be telling a beat writer, you could say in a press conference, but they don't do it.
Well, so sometimes you have the things that the coaches will tell them in production meetings or whatever that the coaches don't want being like aired out
until the game.
Matt LaFleur got really angry last season because this happened where he, I forget who it was that he told something, they said it on air, and he was like, yeah, that was not for public consumption.
I guess that is kind of interesting, although I would tell them, maybe don't say it then. I guess would be the advice there. Okay, what else is super relevant that we needed? I guess we should talk about the 49ers, because this was just a crazy spot to deal with for the 49ers. I felt, honestly, I am not a pro Purdy guy, but man, you can't, it's a difficult spot for Purdy here. So he goes into this game. You have to assume a huge part of the game plan had to have been about Deebo Samuel, because you still don't have McCaffrey. You're not really wanting to play Guerrero any high leverage snaps. Jordan Mason has been like really average since that first game against the Jets. You have Deebo back. Deebo makes the difference making play last Thursday, scores the 80-yard touchdown. Brandon Ayuk's been playing like shit. He plays 4 snaps. We don't get any reporting about the illness until Rap Sheet tweets it. I think after main lock. I think he tweeted it after noon.
So the Niners actually sent something out to, I believe, their local press about 30 minutes before the game happened. And I have some info from Shanahan at the presser if you want that.
Yes, I do.
He said Deebo Samuel had an illness today, tried to go, couldn't do it, didn't return. And then they asked him when the illness occurred. He said Deebo got sick this morning, stomach things, real fatigued, struggled to breathe, couldn't catch his breath, but he kept trying to fight through it. Once he was struggling with the breathing, we got to shut him down at that point.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not mad at Deebo, obviously. Like, you get sick, It is what it is. I'm mad at and Shanahan is the worst at this. I mean, Kyle Shanahan, what is his CoachSpeak stuff? I mean, is he the number one liar in your database?
No, he's actually like pretty reliable on injury CoachSpeak, but that's like actionable CoachSpeak, right? So I define actionable CoachSpeak as like you say something and it leads us to believe it has a greater than 50% chance of happening. So when a coach says, I expect this player to play, or like he's trending in the right direction, that's actionable. But if they say like, oh, like we're hoping he'll play, that kind of stuff, if they don't give us anything actionable, that doesn't go into the database. So it it gets into kind of a gray area with stuff where like they never actually say anything, and that sort of stuff happens with, you know, whether it's a CMC or Deebo or whatever. But I think people judge him and some of these people a little too harshly, because again, like, let's look at all the context. Okay, Deebo Samuel woke up and he was sick, and we're concentrating on this because it's one situation out of many situations in the NFL that have happened where a player gets sick and he ends up playing through the illness. Like we had Kenneth Walker yesterday. Now, whether that was a real illness or it was just like a birthday related thing and he wanted out of practice, whatever. But this happens all the time where guys get sick. They try to play through it. Most of them end up playing through it. Every once in a while, you're going to get a guy that's not going to be able to play through it. So like, what's the timeline? Like how soon do the Niners report like, okay, yeah, this might be like an actual real sickness and not just like waking up feeling kind of bleh?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I'm probably a little bit angry because it cost me a bunch of money. Like I just was like big on, like, I have a bunch of Deebo bags. I have a bunch of Deebo teams on DraftKings. I have a bunch of Deebo teams in Battle Royale. Like it just was one of those really annoying things for me. Yeah, I don't know. What about, I think more importantly here, what is the CoachSpeak Index opinion on what happens now that Brandon Ayuk is out? What is the 49ers wide receiver rotation moving forward? Is there room? Like, what do you think the positional breakdowns will be?
I mean, obviously you're going to have Deebo out there when he's able to breathe. And they don't run a lot of 11 personnel, so it's just going to be one other receiver out there mainly. I mean, Ricky, it's probably going to be just a mix, right? Like we're going to get a good amount of Juwan Jennings when he's healthy again, just because he's so fucking good in the run game, and he's proven to be like a pretty decent enough receiver. Yeah, I think we'll just see kind of guys mix in through there.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, like, what has Shanahan said about kind of how he views where Pearsall plays positionally? Does he think he like can he like for like Ayuk? Can he do Deebo's thing? Like, what is there been anything there?
They've asked zero questions about kind of like his like scheme fit or whatever. It's just like, when is he coming back? How much is he going to play?
Man, isn't that so frustrating?
It's insane. All the questions that could be asked at all these pressers, and
what does get asked at a presser? If people are not asking this, what the fuck gets asked at a presser?
This past summer, during all of the Chargers pressers, there were zero questions about Kamani Vidal, and yes, there were probably about a dozen questions about Jim Harbaugh's RV and Greg Roman's RV. They're just like obsessed. Like, did you drive the RV down? Oh, you had somebody drive it down. Oh, you got it parked at the same spot with Greg Roman. How's that going? How are you guys enjoying RV life? Like, hey, could we get something that like not only fantasy people but also fans could use? Like, I try to understand, like, okay, they're NFL's not super focused, at least the coaches and stuff aren't focused on fantasy, and beat reporters aren't necessarily focused on fantasy or betting or any of that stuff. But I'm talking about questions that everyone wants to hear answers to, and they're not being asked because we keep getting the same sort of question over and over and over, rephrased in different ways during press conferences throughout the week. It's like, hey, yeah, this is the same exact question that was asked 2 days ago at this head coach's presser. Like, can we get some new stuff? And then you have press conferences that last literally 90 seconds because there's just no questions. It's just, here's injury stuff from the coach, 1 or 2 questions. All right, that's it. Have a great day. Everybody can go home now.
Honestly, it'd be one of those things where our fantasy, our beat writers allowed to play fantasy football? Like if there was like can we get a beat writer who plays fantasy to be, because like you think about the Vidal thing and you're like, oh well, why would a beat writer care about the fourth string running back who's behind Jarrett Pat? And then you think through it and you're like, well, if one of these beat writers, Daniel Proper, not that I like hate Daniel Proper or anything, but if he played fantasy football, he would look at it and he'd be like, well, this is a team that wants to run the ball a lot. Their running backs are J.K. Dobbins, who has never had more than 17 rushes in a game until last week. He has had a season-ending injury, I believe, every year of his career. I believe he has finished every Ravens season injured. We have Gus Edwards, who has off-season surgery and is 28 and is not very good. And then we have Jarrett Patterson, Hassan Haskins, and Kamani Vidal. It would probably behoove this team to have figured out something at running back and for the fans to know the plan of what that was. But we didn't get questions about Vidal, I believe, until he missed a preseason game and they asked Greg Roman why he didn't play.
Yeah. That's exactly it. And then we got the speculation that Kamani Vidal might not, he's probably not going to make this roster. You remember that?
Buddy, I do, because I was like, well, maybe I should not have 17% of this guy who's not projected to make the 53-man roster for the Chargers.
Yeah, but if you, I don't know how many of them are even aware of some of these rookies. Like, I don't know how many of the beat reporters knew about Kamani Vidal and like had watched any of his college tape or like known anything about him, because like he fits in pretty well here with the Chargers. And to think that like Isaiah Spiller would make the roster over him, or who's the other one, Jarrett Patterson, just kind of.
Well, Jarrett Patterson was kind of interesting, honestly. He had 8 rushing touchdowns in a game at Buffalo in a season with 0 receptions. Very funny. Very funny stuff.
Really, 0 receptions. Wow.
Truly. Yeah. He had his final season. I think he scored like 25 touchdowns. Right? What's that? Buffalo. Yeah. The
Buffalo. Yeah.
Yeah. The Buffalo Bulls. The Buffalo Bulls. Well, I mean, I guess while we're here, we could talk about the other side of the game. We could talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. So Juju has already been ruled out.
Yeah.
For week 8. What's your anticipation of what the Chiefs wide receiver? Oh, I forgot it. By the way, Isaiah Spiller. We didn't even mention Isaiah Spiller's name, but yeah, what's your expectation for the Chiefs moving forward? Just more Mahomes interceptions.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
More Patrick Mahomes anamorphing into Tim Couch whenever he targets Xavier Worthy.
Could he just have made that throw, the 70-yard touchdown?
I mean, I'm still not over it. I'll never recover from that.
I remember, this is such a weird thing that I remember, but I do remember a game against, I want to say the Dolphins. This would have been in like 2019, where Mahomes, they got the ball on their own 1-yard line, and Mahomes like just barely overthrew Tyreek for a 99-yard touchdown. I'll never forget it. Well, maybe there is a little bit of coach speak for us to think about here, actually, because CEH was not activated for this game. Yeah. And Carson Steele got 6 rushes, which was way more than he had gotten the last 2 weeks after fumbling. Now, I think part of that was they don't want Kareem Hunt to like literally get 30 rushes a game. Like there's just only so much his body can handle. But what is your breakdown of this backfield? Like, is CH going to be activated? Is P. Ryan going to play more? Is Hunt going to play less? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, they asked Matt Nagy about CEH this past week. He said, we'll see. Like everything they've said, and then Andy Reid before that, they asked him about his plan for CEH. He said, we'll just see how that goes. We got to look at everything. It doesn't sound like CEH is gonna play much this season, if that had to be my guess.
I mean, I would imagine that he does not play unless P. Ryan or Steele gets injured. Like, I think it's like, honestly, I wonder if it's kind of them doing him a favor in terms of getting him off the IR so he can get paid and like vest and that stuff. Like, I think they clearly like him, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
I think Reed likes him. I think Nagy likes him. I think Pat obviously likes him.
I think they're
just
for him.
Say that again.
I think they're gutted for him. Like, whenever asked about him and they talk about him, of course they try to be sensitive to the situation and still answer the questions and stuff. But like, it's clear that like this isn't something that's going away overnight for CEH. It's something that probably will take a long time to kind of mentally heal from. It's not like a hamstring or a broken finger or something. Like, these things take years most times to resolve.
Actually, I have a larger question for you. Was I stupid for not bidding on Kareem Hunt? Like, I'm in all these high stakes leagues and everything, and I was like, no, dude, it's Pirine and Steele, particularly Steele. I mean, I actually still have Steele on teams because I haven't had a good drop there yet. But I really thought, Steele making the roster is like this UDFA. They've had the Deneric Prince. They've had like a lot of these guys they've tried out as the third running back, and none of them has stuck. And then Steele, I mean, they win, and he looked pretty good in that game that he started. Or do you sort of think the plan was always to get back to Kareem Hunt?
Okay, so on September 18th, there's this press conference. I'll put the notes into the CoachSpeak Index Discord, and I just made like a mental note of this for myself. I didn't know if it was just not like a slip of the tongue, or like, is he just saying this like without thinking of what he's actually saying? But Andy Reid says this is when, of course, they got Kareem Hunt and he's in practice and they haven't activated him. They're just like, trying to bring him along. He says, we'll try to get Kareem Hunt in a position where he could play this week, next week, or the following week. We'll see how long it takes. And then, quote, we've got other guys that can jump in and play for him. Right. That's
that's I gotta get in the
Discord, brother.
Gotta get in the Discord, dude. That right there is brutal, man.
Yeah. And then he says, let's get him started first and kind of see where we're at with them. And then in a press conference that's sorry, I had it here. On the 25th, so about a week later, says, I don't know how the backfield workload will get split up. We'll just play it by ear. We've got 3 good running backs. So them playing it by ear has resulted in all these touches for Kareem Hunt. And then in the post-game press conference yesterday, you have Andy Reid saying, Kareem Hunt, he's a beast. And, reads out his stat line. What was it, like 22 rushes. Yeah, for like 70 yards or something.
You know what? I really should have just zoomed out on the chart and known the weird optics of bringing Hunt back should have just been an indication. Like, yeah, they're gonna give this guy the ball, because like they could have brought him back at any point in the last 2 years, basically.
But it's such like a big mental hump for fantasy players to get over. Is any team could have had this guy? This guy was sitting on the couch. Is he really
bad? He was third to last in rush yards over expectation last year.
Yeah. So like, how could he possibly come in and be the guy there? And maybe it's the Carson Steele fumbles kind of opening it up to where, okay, well, it's definitely not going to be Carson Steele, so let's just stick with Kareem Hunt. But he looked pretty good, like his first game back.
He did. Okay, we should talk about now? We should talk about the New England Patriots and their quarterback, Drake Maye, who in fantasy points per game, he's a quarterback. Well, he's actually a quarterback 6 if you include Russell Wilson, but he's the quarterback 5 if you include not Russell Wilson. He 21.1 fantasy points per game. What are the Patriots saying about Maye? Do they feel, are they bummed out by the losses, like what is going on with the New England Patriots and Drake Maye?
Yeah, they're bummed out by the losses. They are not bummed out by Drake Maye. Drake Maye is like one of the lone bright spots to Jerrod Mayo. It definitely from this week. He talked about how it's progress. He's continually getting better. He gives us a better chance to win. Last week he had 3 turnovers. This week, no turnovers from him. So, kind of silver lining in that loss. But he attributes them losing to, first of all, the defense giving up all these explosive plays and not being able to stop the run. And then the run game on offense not getting going. He's really big on the run game, and he knows that that's going to help out Drake Maye if they have a healthy run game. So he's really upset about that. And he's kind of upset about several of the wide receivers who
Jerrod Mayo hates Ja'Lynn Polk. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. So Ja'Lynn Polk posted something on I don't know, somewhere of like a
Instagram, I think.
Yeah, like a peace sign or something, and then he deleted it. And then you have Kendrick Bourne talking about how there are guys on this team that are staying up all night. They have the wrong diet, like they're eating all the wrong stuff.
This is just a thing, by the way. NFL players eat fucking terrible. Like, you'll just get these stories of these guys being like, dude, all I eat is candy. Tyreek has a terrible diet. I mean, I don't know if he does anymore, but I know from his time in Kansas City, he ate garbage and stayed up all the time and played video games. And it's like, dude, can I send these guys the Huberman Lab podcast? Like, can we figure this out, bro? This is not good.
Marshawn Lynch was 100% fueled by Skittles. That was his entire food pyramid.
Really, really not ideal. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think you have to be super encouraged by Drake Maye. He has like no time to throw. 2.61 average time to throw. 2.4. This is a good question. 2.4 time to pressure. How close is that to absolute dead last in the NFL? Well, actually, it's not that bad. Never mind. Well, these guys don't count. These are like no attempts. Jameis, Dak, Rattler. Okay, never mind. I'm wrong. I would have thought that was really low.
But they do want to, push the ball downfield, which they weren't able to do under Jacoby Brissett, which, Jerrod Mayo acknowledged once they put Maye in at quarterback. So, it's a completely different offense, obviously, with Maye in there. And I think it's looking up definitely for the long term. Like they got their guy, I believe, with Maye. Like, this is the guy who has never played behind a good offensive line since college. Like, what's going to happen once it'd actually be really funny if he kind of like reversed Zach Wilson and he became like really, really terrible behind a strong offensive line.
I think he's going to be, I mean, obviously I think that he's going to be good, but he's been thrust into this bad team, bad offensive line, wide receivers are dropped. Like, honestly, I feel like the whole complexion of that game might have changed if Polk doesn't drop that early one and they just get a little bit more positive momentum going on,
Did you see, I think it was Sam Sherman's tweet of Polk like drops his glove pregame.
Yes.
He's just walking across his glove. Like, this is such a bad omen for Ja'Lynn Polk. Dude, he's in a rough spot right now mentally.
Speaking of rough spots mentally, where is Shane Steichen at on Anthony Richardson? Because it's so one of those interesting things of they clearly are a better team right now. Like, not even close, a better team when Joe Flacco is in. The wide receivers are able to do their thing. They win without Jonathan Taylor. And like, obviously part of all this going on is that Tyler Goodson and Trey Sermon are two of the worst rushers in the NFL. I know Goodson like looked a little bit better yesterday, but I mean, come on, it's Tyler Goodson. Like, Tyler Goodson lost them their season last year. And of course you have the people on Twitter who are like, oh, you gotta bench Richardson. You gotta bench Richardson so that we can get Flacco in but explosive. Tyler Goodson, 11% explosive runs, 53% of his yards are on explosive runs. I guess that's pretty interesting. No explosive runs for Trey Sermon. Who could have seen? But where is Shane Steichen at on Richardson? Is he frustrated? Does he understand this is part of the process? Is it growing pains?
He took 100% of the blame yesterday for their offensive woes. He said, that's on me. Like he said, we have to go back and look at the tape, but from what I saw, guys weren't getting open, and that's just on me.
Interesting.
Richardson is their guy. They are not going to Joe Flacco when Anthony Richardson is.
What is Flacco like at these press conferences? Is he funny? Is he congenial, or is he like, I want to play?
I don't watch the players' press conferences.
Really? I guess you don't have time.
Yeah, dude. Head coaches, offensive coordinators, general managers is like 80 hours a week for me during the regular season. Yeah.
I suppose that makes sense. I would hope Flacco is just very much along for the ride. He's like, look, it's fun. We're hanging out. I enjoy throwing touchdowns when I get to come in. But yeah, I mean, the Richardson thing is so frustrating because it's the reverse of like Bryce Young, Josh Rosen, Zach Wilson, where it's like, oh, well, this will just never work. There's not one thing that Zach Wilson could do that could get me to convince that a team should spend 2 seasons just wasting time trying to get him reps. But like, the Colts should definitely still, for at least this year and probably next year, still plan on getting him as many reps as possible and trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is just the inability to protect himself. Where like, I'm just afraid Anthony Richardson is going to die, just any given game. Yeah.
He takes so much flack, obviously, for his running style, and definitely on some of the runs, I agree with that. But on others, you have like no other option but to like, okay, put my non-throwing shoulder into this guy, right? If it's like a crowd of guys coming in on you real quick, like there are instances where you don't have time to slide, or if you slide, like you're going to take a really nasty hit as a result of that. So I get the non-throwing shoulder sometimes, but then you have ones where it's like, okay, you're on the sideline. Like you just go out of bounds, man. Like this makes you so valuable, right? But you have to be available for that to be valuable. Otherwise, right. It's Joe Flacco. So they can't dial back on the rushing stuff. They were asked about it during the preseason, and Shane Steichen said, like, you have Steph Curry, you let him shoot threes. Like this is Anthony Richardson. Like this is part of the reason why he was such a high pick in the draft. It's because of his legs. If he's not mobile anymore, he's not a startable NFL quarterback. So yeah, we got to work on the accuracy. But like you can't cut bait on this guy. You have to develop him into something. And like, this is a real prove it moment for Shane Steichen. Are you an actual offensive wizard, or are you Mickey Mouse in a big robe?
Well, speaking of Mickey Mouse, so Anthony Richardson is dead last in the entirety of football in EPA plus CPOE composite. Actually, he's not dead last anymore. No, he is dead last. Well, no, not dead last because of Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So Dorian Thompson-Robinson is saving him. But the next team that I want to talk about features 2 guys on the list of the worst possible quarterbacks in the NFL and Mickey Mouse. We have Tyler Huntley and Tim Boyle at 41 and 43. What I want to ask you is, what the fuck does Mike McDaniel say in these press conferences where like his team comes out, they gain no yards, they look terrible? Like Tyreek and Waddle, let me tell you, those dudes are open. I promise you from watching that there's nothing Mike McDaniel has to do to scheme up to get those guys open. Those guys were born open.
Yeah.
But what does Mike McDaniel say about how bad this offense is?
He says so much and yet so little. He's the guy where when I'm listening to his press conference, I'm like, okay, what's a 25-minute chore that I can knock out right now while listening to this press conference, because there aren't going to be many notes from it that I have to write down. He'll be asked a question and his answer will take like 4 or 5 minutes, and it's absolutely nothing that he says. It's quite impressive, actually. It's wild, man. And it's like so vague that there's not even kind of reading between the lines availability in what he says. Every once in a while you'll get that stuff, but it's pretty rare with him.
I can imagine that. What just while we're here, what about the Achane Mostert Wright stuff? Has he been pretty adamant about Achane being the lead guy? Where has he been at with that stuff?
Same thing, just like super vague of, hey, like whichever guy deserves to have the ball will be the one which shall have the ball in his hands. Just like real weird way of talking. So yeah, there's been no like super clear, actionable, or like even close to actionable stuff from McDaniel.
Well, speaking of actionable, what's up with Tua? Is Tua gonna play? Is Tua healthy? Like what's the word on the Alec and Ingold stuff? I literally cannot talk about Alec Ingold. But is Tua going to clear concussion protocol, IR, whatever, and play football? Like that seems like a crazy situation.
Yeah, so that's another one that McDaniel doesn't talk about. He has this thing about, okay, if a player is out for an extended period of time, like I don't talk about timelines, because then that player knows the timeline that I've set, and they're rushing themselves to get back, 3 weeks from now. So he doesn't like doing that for anything that's more than, a couple weeks. But what he has said on October 7th, everything is so far so good with Tua. And on the 18th said everything has been physically positive with Tua every day. He was asked about how Tua is doing physically, and he said everything is positive. So not a bunch of stuff from him, but it makes sense that week 8 could be the week. It's been about a month, 5 weeks or so that he's been out. Just like, concussion timeline wise, like this makes sense. So all the kind of sourced reports, and I would tend to believe.
I suppose that makes sense, but
someone says he gave it to a update today. I've not had a chance to watch that.
All right, well, I guess we are about to learn. The Packers wide receiver room. Does LaFleur ever? Did he get as discouraged as us about Dontayvion Wicks? Romeo Doubs back in the fold now, 10 out of 33 targets. Watson only the 2 targets. I mean, is this just what their wide receiver rotation is moving forward, where Watson and Wicks are going to split?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't talked about like the rotation and snap numbers and that kind of stuff. It'd be really nice if every week one of these 4 receivers said, hey, I volunteer as tribute to sit out this one game, so everybody else can get a nice piece of the pie. But they do. I mean, they like Wicks a lot, even with the drops and stuff. They're still talking about like Adam Stenovich on October 3rd said there's not one guy that has better hands than Dontayvion Wicks. So
so he lied. So he just lied.
Yeah. And he says that he's a problem for defenses. This doesn't it seem a little bit similar to the Devontae Adams, like had problems with drops first couple years of his career, but really good at getting open.
Yeah, I mean, that was, you want to talk about a huge CoachSpeak thing all offseason. The coaching staffs kept comparing him to Devontae Adams. It wasn't beat writers doing it. It was the literal coaching staffs of the Green Bay Packers. They were saying that the similarities were there. And I mean, if you look at the data, the the stuff is pretty favorable to Wicks, even with all of the drops. I mean, 33% targets per route run is like, brother, that's like about as good as it gets in the entirety of the NFL. Wow, interesting that Romeo Doubs has a higher win rate. Yeah, I mean, I would not have predicted that, but I guess that's why I don't know ball, because I'm not able to appreciate Romeo Doubs's game.
I mean, he seems to be, I don't know if this is weird to say, but like running good on his opportunities this year. Romeo Doubs, like he's had a bunch of that kind of contested stuff, and maybe it's just like, okay, he's a good contested catch receiver, but it does seem to be like a little bit more over the expected rate with what he's doing. But I mean, we know Jordan Love really, really loves Romeo Doubs. When he's asked, hey, who are the receivers you want for this? You have one play and any receiver in the NFL, and he's picking Romeo Doubs as part of his team.
Yeah, that's his boy. Well, speaking of disingenuous.
By the way, just want to say real quick on the Dontayvion Wicks stuff, when Matt LaFleur was talking about him and saying how he sees glimpses of Devontae Adams in him, and I just can't help thinking about what he says, like when I see Dontayvion Wicks on the field, talking about how his like first step, he has this like Iverson crossover where he can just like beat you like so badly immediately off the line, which is, you know, kind of what helps him get so open. And it's just really cool, like, you know, hearing or seeing someone say that, and then, you know, looking at it kind of through that lens and seeing that on the field is like pretty neat.
For sure. I definitely agree with that. All right, we got to talk about the Cleveland Browns. Just like, what is the plan moving forward? I'm assuming it is going to be Jameis for the rest of the season. The reason why he was the emergency third string quarterback was so that the fans would stop chanting his name for him to come in the game. Has the coaching staff ever said like Jerry Jeudy is just terrible and doesn't try? Have they ever?
No.
What?
They're very positive coaching staff. By the way, get Ken Dorsey out of my life. Hate listening to his press conferences, and you know how you just get like a feel of people by, you know, if you like watch them, you know, it's a content creator, whoever, like you watch someone who speaks a lot, and I hope people aren't thinking of me now when I'm saying this, but like you watch someone, you're like, oh my God, like this person is not gonna make it, right? Like you just get a real feeling about, like, I have a feeling about Mike McDonald, like this guy fucking gets it hard. Yeah. Whereas with Ken Dorsey, it's like, this guy's hopeless. This guy will never be beneficial to it. He'll never be plus EV to a team.
Yeah. I mean, so Stefanski comes out after the game. Is he like, you have to think, honestly, he probably is like kind of breathing a sigh of relief. Now, the interesting thing about Jameis is, like, obviously us on fantasy Twitter, we love him because he makes our wide receivers great.
Yeah.
A lot of NFL teams have had a chance to play him and have declined to do so. We've seen a lot of bad quarterback play in the NFL, and we have not got to see Jameis play very well. What do they feel about Jameis? So, like, is this exciting, you think, for Stefanski, or is he just like, dude, this all blows? Like, this whole situation just blew up in my face.
I mean, they're pretty positive around, you know, about all their guys. Oh, by the way, I see the Elijah Moore snaps there. I don't know if you got, yeah. Did you know he was out for the first quarter?
No.
Yeah, Stefanski addressed that after the game, said like there's a reason he wasn't out there in the first quarter, but we're keeping that in-house. So it seems like a, you know,
interesting
a disciplinary thing. I don't know if it's like missed a meeting or just kind of overall personal stuff. But Jerry Jeudy had a lot of targets with Jameis, right?
I mean, yes. I mean,
We're
Njoku.
to like how long they were in the game together.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Jerry Jeudy just needed to have a quarterback, but I'm thinking not. I'm more thinking that this is like Cedric Tillman's time to shine. He feels like the perfect Jameis wide receiver.
Yeah. Just go up and get it.
I mean, yeah, like literally, DTR comes in. Watson tears his Achilles. DTR comes in, immediate first play, bang. Would have been a touchdown, and the defender had to interfere to keep it from being a touchdown. But boy, yeah,
this is all it took for the Cedric Tillman thesis to finally come to life was two quarterbacks getting, or Deshaun getting injured and Amari Cooper getting shipped out.
For sure. What about Chubb? I mean, how soon do you foresee the entire backfield getting turned over to Nick Chubb?
So there's the stuff that I posted earlier of, we have a plan for him for his workload. You have to be ready to adjust based on how he's feeling. And then in the post-game presser last night, Stefanski said, they asked him, hey, Chubb only got, I think, one rush in the second half. And he said, yeah, there are no setbacks with him. We were just trying to be smart with him. He came out of the game good. He'll be ready to roll.
Well, I mean, I was a little bit surprised that he saw 11 rushes in the first game. I honestly thought it would be like they kind of ceremonially save him for whatever end zone possession they have. So like that bodes pretty well for his health.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, for sure. For like the first game back to get that many touches, and if this was a close game, and they weren't getting,
yeah.
What was the final? They're getting beat pretty bad, like later in the game.
Well, they actually, you could definitely argue they cost themselves a chance at a win by making DTR the backup quarterback, because if Jameis comes in immediately, I mean, it ended 21-14. It was a garbage time touchdown, but DTR is terrible. Like we know DTR is terrible. Yeah. All right. I mean, you knew I had to ask you, Chase Brown, how do the Bengals coaching staff, especially after the fumble, he gets 15 carries to Zach Moss's 6. He has a 30-yard run called back by holding. Now, Moss ends up with more routes than him in the end because he gets the 2-minute drill stuff. But like, what is the general tenor on Chase Brown and Zach Moss from the coaching staff?
Yeah. So on October 16th, they asked whether Zac Taylor sees Chase Brown's role increasing. And he says, quote, we'll just continue to do the things that are best for our offense. So this was after the week 6 game, right? Where Chase Brown got most of the run in that game.
Yeah.
And looked good. And he looked, decent. He looked fine. He played like 2 really bad defenses, which definitely helped out a lot. Maybe got us a little over our skis on his outlook for the rest of the season. But I do think they like recognize his explosive ability, obviously, and kind of a similar thing to Kenneth Walker, where, all right, yeah, this guy might lose a couple yards here and there where other running backs wouldn't get any yardage, but eventually, like he's gonna break one for 50 yards or whatever. And we saw him break one for like a 30-yarder yesterday that got called back. But I feel like it's tilting more towards Chase Brown, and the fact that he is getting goal line work in the offense this season. I mean, that's huge. That's just so big for him.
It is. Yeah. It's unbelievably massive. And then, I mean, I guess we should talk a little bit about the Buffalo Bills. So here's the thing I would posit to you. They went super pass heavy in a game that was never in doubt. It was the most pass attempts that Josh Allen had thrown all year long. So they trade for Amari Cooper. Cooper only runs 12 of 35 routes. He plays 19 snaps. He gets targeted 5 times. What's the like, kind of, why did you think they did the trade? Do you think there's a winner? Do you think there's a loser? Is this like Keon Coleman's breakout game? Are Cooper snaps going to come from Hollins? Like what, just like we have some data. What's your reaction to Amari Cooper in Buffalo?
I mean, obviously an upgraded situation for Amari Cooper, so great for him. I do think it like helps Keon Coleman a little bit because like they don't have to put him in this ill-suited X role. Like they can have Amari Cooper there, and then
are they going to make him the big slot?
Like that seems to be ideal, for the Bills and for Keon Coleman. So if that happens, and I know, Keon Coleman's production yesterday was with Amari Cooper off the field, but once they get on the field together, yeah, Amari Cooper X, Keon Coleman, big slot, like seems to be. But then where do you put Khalil Shakir?
I think you have to keep Coleman playing out of position. That's really the only way to do it, right? I mean, Shakir, it's like so funny. Like Shakir is definitely good at what the Bills ask him to do. But if my options are play Keon Coleman out of position in a way that doesn't make sense for the guy we just spent a first round pick on, or make sure that Khalil Shakir stays on the field, I think I'm benching Khalil Shakir, right? I guess the issue on this, to put a hat on top of a hat, the issue on top of that is Mac Hollins is not a good NFL player and doesn't really need to be on the field. Although Josh Allen likes him, so that complicates it a good bit. And great run blocker. And the team clearly wants to run the ball. They really want to run the ball. Yeah. What's that about? What is it with Joe Brady having Josh Allen and wanting to run the ball?
It's Joe Brady, man. Everybody eats in this offense, according to Joe Brady, which is not really. I mean, everybody eats, but it's not like a filling amount. Everybody's eating hors d'oeuvres here. That should be the motto that they have there. Yeah, this dude loves pounding the rock, and Mac Hollins helps that a bit. There's when you see Joe Brady wearing a Mac Hollins shirt during his presser, it's like, okay, yeah, he might actually like this guy.
Yeah, and Curtis Samuel gets injured, so maybe that helps figure the whole deal out. And then Ray Davis. So is Ray Davis are we heading into a 50-50? Is he going to get some goal line stuff? Like, what is Ray Davis's role?
Yeah, I don't think he gets 50-50. Definitely eating in on James Cook, but Brady loves his Jimbo. I don't see a guy with the nickname Jimbo getting less than 50% here in Buffalo. He's good. He's very explosive, and like Ray Davis is good. He's exciting to watch, but I don't think he has like that extra gear that James Cook has.
James
you're OC in Buffalo. What are you doing, Davis?
Well, I'm scrapping the entire thing. I'm starting over. I'm not taking Keon Coleman. I'm not signing Curtis Samuel. I would trade for Amari Cooper. I thought that was wise. I thought that was an intelligent move. I'm also not drafting Dalton Kincaid. I'm taking that pick back. I'm signing like Jonnu Smith in free agency instead of drafting Dalton Kincaid. So basically, I'm not doing anything. What's Brandon Beane is the name of their general manager. Mm-hmm. But if Joe Brady got fired tomorrow and I got hired as an offensive quality control coach, I'm hiring a McShanny guy. So I'm like finding someone that had lunch with Shanahan once. I'm hiring him. And then I'm immediately benching Mac Hollins. I'm telling Keon Coleman to suck it up. You are going to have to learn to play on the boundary. Shakir's playing in the slot. Cooper is going to play every snap. He's going to play a ton. Maybe we can do a little bit more Kincaid, a little bit less Knox, because Knox is just so non-dynamic. But I'm dropping back 43 times a game. I'm dropping back a ton.
Yeah. What about the backfield?
Backfield, I'm doing Ray Davis goal line back like kind of how I'm trying to think of a good comp, like not your classic Thunder and Lightning, because you want Cook. The thing is you want Cook to get some touches, between the 20s, because he can break them in a way that Ray Davis can't. But like my short yardage stuff, I want Ray Davis because he just is a dog,
Yeah. He's the hammer. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't understand when you have like a really good offense or like an offense like this, where you have just like this incredible mobile alien quarterback. Like, why aren't you just running like fast tempo, run the defense off the fucking field and never let them catch their breath kind of offense?
Really, really not ideal. All right, man, let's get out of here. Tell the people about CoachSpeak Index, about the Discord, and we'll be on the way.
Yeah, check me out on Twitter at CoachSpeak Index. And then, as Davis mentioned, I have the Discord where I watch every single head coach, offensive coordinator, general manager press conference, which is all week. It's many, many hours. And I get all the most important information from those, distill it down, put it into individual team threads in the CoachSpeak Index Discord. And it's so helpful, just like on a weekly basis, seeing what the coaches are saying, but then also being able to scroll back, like I just did here with Davis, and say, this is what the coaching staff feels about this particular player. So yeah, super useful stuff. And that is linked on my Twitter. It's like the pinned tweet. So yeah, check that out.
Yeah. All right, guys, make sure that you're checking out the CoachSpeak Index. Make sure that you're following the account, subscribing to the podcast, checking out the Discord, all that good stuff. I will be back tomorrow with a bunch of Battle Royale stuff. We're going to get ready to win the Battle Royale. Hope that you guys had a better week 7 than I did, and we will be. It's Short King Summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated. It's Short King Summer.